clammy hands.
Don't talk about me like that.
Can you
Cool.
hear
Yeah,
the
you
clammy
need
hands?
some
So
candy.
does your sister.
So does Matthew.
My hands are always the same.
Can't relate.
Well,
Just kidding, don't feel.
Because I'm never nervous. I'm always
I am.
confident.
I'm always nervous. I'm a hot mess express.
Alright, we ready?
Best Express.
It's terrible. Welcome to the Unlikely Disciples, the Catholic podcast for young adults made by young adults. Today, joining the pod, we have Jack, Ryan, Louisa, and myself, Jason.
Yeet.
Hi, everybody.
So, for our check-in today, let's go with...
What started today?
Is Santa real?
What is your favorite part about Christmas? Who wants to start?
I can. My favorite part about Christmas is that Jesus was born.
Jesus. Oh no, wrong sign. Wrong song. I was gonna sing Jesus Christ is risen today. That's Easter.
Oh, he has not.
Woo!
It's been...
So, Louisa,
Um,
Ryan?
Okay, so last year I went to midnight Latin Mass with my family. And it was the first Latin Mass that I had been to in probably like 6 months prior to that. And so, as somebody who doesn't go to Latin Mass regularly, I was not super familiar with it and also not super comfortable and complacent. And it was just so pretty to see all the symbolism and the extra pieces in the Mass. And so I get to do that again this year. And so I'm very excited for it.
Well, as far as location, my Christmas this year won't be as... Well, it won't be the same as last year. Last year, my family and I visited my brother in Rome, Italy. So we had a Christmas Mass with the Pope.
Nice.
So it won't be like that again this year, since we'll be stateside. But my favorite part is definitely not the music. I can tell you that, Jason.
That's always a plus, in my opinion. But it's fine.
Well, we disagree in that aspect.
Oh, so fun. Okay. All right, so secular Christmas. What is secular Christmas?
Buying gifts at an outrageously price.
Did you mean Black Friday?
That's when they're cheap.
Oh.
Whoops.
I'd say celebrating Christmas now.
And why is
Or
that an
before.
Well, that's a
October
great
31st.
question, Louise.
issue? Hey, you be quiet.
That's a great question, Louise. It's a bad idea to celebrate Christmas now. One, because it's not Christmas. And two, because it's Advent. And Advent
It's a completely different season.
is indeed a different season. In that season, we are supposed to be preparing our hearts for the coming of Jesus. So how can you celebrate something you're not prepared for? That's like having a birthday party without people.
I mean, yeah, kinda.
So much fun. Not.
Not.
Are you speaking from experience?
No.
So, okay, so Advent, right? We're supposed to be preparing. And I don't remember where I read this, and I perhaps could get into trouble for saying this, but not citing my source. But, so I'll paraphrase.
You still need to cite your source.
I know. I know. College life. When you're in Advent and you're preparing for Christmas, are you looking forward to the coming of a day or the coming of a person? When I think about like how I treat Advent, so often I'm awaiting the day of Christmas, right? Like I'm looking forward to Christmas Day, and I'm not focusing on like, oh my gosh, this is when Jesus Christ, a real person, is coming into my life. And that, I think it totally reframes how I look at Advent, and it's a nice little reflection to have kind of in my arsenal of reflections. So, are you anticipating a day or a person? That's my question to the listeners and to anybody else, or you guys can do something else.
Yeah. I think for myself, I often forget or don't prepare for a person, and am more so just noticing that Christmas, the day, is approaching, and not attaching any sort of significance to that. And so that's where I get held up.
And, like, that's the issue, too, with secular Christmas, quote unquote. The secular Christmas season starts as soon as Thanksgiving's over, right? Or
before Halloween, if you're me.
Yeah, and it's this time for red and green and all the songs
and holiday cheer.
Yeah, right. And, like, that's all fine and dandy, except for the fact that you're looking forward to a day. You're not looking forward to a person. And forget the fact that, like, the church has 2 seasons that occur before Christmas season in that time. So there's ordinary time and then there's Advent. And the mood of Advent is very different than the mood of secular Christmas, I would argue.
Why would you argue that? What do you mean by that?
Well,
just for clarification.
So, like, if you think about Lent, right? Advent and Lent are the 2 penitential seasons of the Catholic Church calendar year, if you will. And, like, Lent, right, we give something up, and on Fridays we don't eat meat, and, you know, you're supposed to do the whole prayer, fasting, and almsgiving thing. And although Lent and Advent are a little bit different, most people don't even give a second thought to, like, how am I preparing my heart to receive Christ, right? Like, Advent, great time to go to confession if you haven't been to confession in a while, or a great time to continue going to confession. It's a great time to bump up your prayer life. It's a great time to start spiritual reading. It's a great time to get to know this individual whose birthday party you're going to be celebrating in 4 weeks. But, like, most people, because of secular Christmas, they're all holiday cheer, let's have the music, let's have the lights, let's do all these fun things. And they don't even pay attention to how can I prepare my heart for the coming of Christ.
So, off of that, how do you guys prepare for it?
Eggnog.
Prior to this year, I never did really prepare for Christmas as we should. I'm very much the person that gets all caught up in the secular aspect of it. Christmas sweaters, the movies, the scents. So everything like that, but I sat down with one of our missionaries on campus this past week, and it was very much a conversation of, what are you doing to prepare for Advent? And I was like, I've never thought of Advent and the Christmas season in that aspect. Like, I've understood, like, Jesus comes on Christmas and whatever, and Jesus Christ is the reason for the season. Favorite Christmas quote ever. But I never took that time to, like, really prepare for it as you do for Lent and stuff like that. So after talking for a while, the missionary was like, you should do this. You should start off your New Year's resolution starting on December 1st. Because everybody always fails their New Year's resolution because they think after the holiday season you can just start it and, like, be healthy. Well, if you would start that during Advent season, you are going to have the times of the trial and error process building up to Christmas, so that really prepares you for your resolution, but as well as becoming closer to Jesus Christ and waiting for his anticipation.
So, Jack, you said eggnog. I gotta believe you do more than just drink eggnog.
This is my first year really not drinking eggnog. I don't know. Yeah, I said eggnog as a joke, obviously, but I don't know. I've never really prepared for Christmas in a Catholic sense before, so I have nothing to go off of.
Which is weird because we're both cradle Catholics.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And we're missing our beloved Matthew today, our convert, and I ache so badly because I feel like his perspective would have been really cool to hear, because this is essentially his first Advent that he is ever celebrating, and that's a really interesting dynamic, because as a fellow cradle Catholic, everybody that's in the room today, we all grew up at least partially in the faith. Some more of us devout than others. I didn't even do the Advent calendar. I didn't know what an Advent wreath was until I was probably in middle school.
What about the Jesse tree?
What's that?
I don't even know what that is now.
Explain what a Jesse tree is.
We'll come back to this.
Yeah. So, I think when we're looking at what the season of Advent is, so many of you, the listeners, I gotta believe, have grown up thinking that Advent, if you even heard that word at all, that it was just, the chocolate calendar, or, oh, there's the wreath at church, or whatever. And I want to invite you to just kind of take a step outside of the secular Christmas culture and outside of all of the lights and the fun things. And don't get me wrong, that stuff can all be great fun. But take a step outside of that and really look into, I'm awaiting Jesus Christ. And if he walked into my bedroom today, or if he walked into my dorm room today, or if he walked into, whatever, your classroom, would you be ready? And if your answer is no, I would invite you to take this Advent to take steps to changing that answer to a yes. Obviously, most of us think that we'll never be ready, and to some extent, you're never fully qualified for God to just walk in your life, right? But, if you're a definite no, I want you to change that to a maybe by the end of this Advent. I feel like that's a manageable goal, right? So that's my thought.
So what, well, back to my first thought here on what a Jesse tree is. And I'm really surprised none of you have heard of that before.
No.
am
The
playing
name's
catch
familiar,
up.
but I have no idea what it is.
Okay.
I've heard people talk about it, but I don't know what
Never
it is.
heard of it in my life.
All right, well, today's your lucky day then, Jason. So, a Jesse tree, it's a very old Christmas tradition. So it was first started in the medieval times, so Google says.
Love Google.
Yes.
Not a sponsor.
But what a Jesse tree does is it's a tool to help retell some of the stories from the Bible that lead up to Jesus' birth. And so what it is, at least in my parish, we'd have a wreath and the Jesse tree on either side of the sanctuary. But ours was just Velcro. It seemed like that we stuck on more Velcro. But, so yeah, in essence it was a tree, and then there were certain figures. So if I remember correctly, one of the said ornaments that went on the Jesse tree was like a ram's head, maybe, or something.
I cannot
For
deny.
I don't know why I'm picturing that one, but I want to say that's the story of Abraham and Isaac, and then there's a ram,
Okay.
with its horns stuck in.
So
a
it goes
fence or
through the
something.
not failed covenants, but the lesser covenants, and then works up to Jesus.
Another one's an ark for Noah and the ark.
Yeah.
And so it goes through a bunch of other different Bible stories.
Interesting.
I think there's 12 in total, but don't quote me on that.
12 Days of Christmas. You want to hear something cool about that story with the ram? Oh, today is not my day. With the who are the guys
Abraham
on
and Isaac.
Abraham and
Abraham's
Isaac?
the dad. Isaac
Yeah.
is the son.
No. So you know how Abraham says, God will provide the lamb,
Yeah.
but he provides a ram.
Okay.
Isn't that cool? Okay, and then so in the sense, sure, God
can't
provides
fact check
the
that either.
sacrifice, but the lamb was Jesus,
That's
who
true.
has not yet come. I don't know, I got that from Dr. Scott Powell. Shout out to Dr. Scott Powell, who is not a sponsor of this podcast, but
He's just cool.
he is cool.
Yeah.
And he lives in Colorado.
So, there are a lot of really rich traditions in the Catholic Church, hashtag 2,000 years old, that really have helped people throughout the ages prepare for Christ coming at Christmas during this season of Advent. But then what do you do as a Catholic to handle or respond to secular Christmas, right? So we're talking about, oh, you should prepare your heart. It's a great time to go to confession. It's a great time to really look at some of the things in your life, to start good habits, to do all these things. It's a cleaning of your soul, right? So what do you do? And how do you respond? And to what degree do you participate in secular Christmas? Because obviously secular Christmas doesn't have Jesus, right? It has like Santa Claus and it has the presents and more so that side of things than it does like Jesus is coming, we should be ready type of a deal. So like, how do you respond?
Well, you see, as I mentioned earlier, I don't like Christmas music. So, in that essence, I complain until people turn it off. But as far as some of the other things, I know my family, we avoid turning on our Christmas lights until Christmas starts officially. We put them up earlier than that. We just don't turn them on because here in the Midwest, you know, nobody wants to go put lights up on the bushes for those that put them up on the roofing.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that when it's cold and icy out.
What are your thoughts on the lights? Do you put them up? Do you turn them on? Ooh.
Depends if I want to take them down in February or not.
Well, you don't have to take them down. You just can turn them off.
Have you seen the Vine where the guy goes, he takes like a selfie video of him and his Christmas tree, and he's like, yo, it is July 21st. What is going on here? So he still has his Christmas tree up in July. Just like how lazy we can get for taking the tree down.
Was it still green?
I think it was a fake one.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I think it was fake.
Trees.
It's just like a dead tree. I'm like, that's
Yeah,
a fire
it's,
hazard.
It's funny, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna combat this for a little bit.
Okay.
And I am totally stealing from a homily that I've heard before. The priest actually mentioned that putting up your Christmas lights and your Christmas decorations is a way to prepare for, like, the birthday party, basically.
Putting them up or turning them on? Or both?
Both.
Okay.
From what I can understand. I don't think that distinction was made, but it sounded like both.
Okay.
And it was kind of the idea of, like, when people are going to come over to your house, right? Like, you clean your house, you turn on all the lights, you try and make it a really welcoming and beautiful atmosphere. And he said, really, truly, everybody hates putting up Christmas lights on the house, right? It's a pain in the butt. It's probably cold. And so it's that idea of you're doing something that annoys you simply so that it's beautiful for Christmas Day. And, like, the idea of essentially that's what we should be doing with our soul, is to, like, do something that's kind of a pain in the butt, i.e. confession or, you know, whatever, giving up something or doing something extra or whatever, so that our soul can be beautiful for Christmas and Jesus coming. And I'm not necessarily saying I agree with that, but I think that's an interesting perspective.
I would agree. And as far as, like, we both agree in putting them up early.
Yeah, right.
We don't disagree in that aspect. Where the homily you're referencing and I potentially disagree is how early do you turn them on?
Yeah.
And so, like you were saying, for preparing for somebody's birthday party, right, you clean up. But how far in advance do you clean before that becomes irrelevant and forgotten why you cleaned?
Fair point.
Because eventually it's going to get dirty.
You're right.
What's your answer on that, Ryan? Because I want to hear both of you.
I don't think there is a definite answer on that. As far as...
So let's use the Christmas lights example then. When do you guys finally turn on your Christmas lights?
If I remember correctly, because last year we weren't home, we were overseas, but if I remember correctly, we turned our lights on pretty close to Christmas Day, if not Christmas Day.
And also, like, it's worth mentioning in the Catholic Church, Christmas is a season. It's several days. I believe it's 12, actually. Fact check me. But it's a full season. And so when you're like, oh, you're taking away the entire Christmas season, I would argue I am not, because there's a whole season. It's just after Christmas because Jesus already came. And it's kind of like, you know, when a baby's born and then everybody wants to come over to the house and like bring cookies and all that stuff. Like, people celebrate for a long time after babies are born. It's not just like a one and done kind of deal. So like that definitely makes more like mental sense as far as like what to do and when.
So I think...
What about music, Jason?
Oh, I was going to hop someplace
okay.
else besides music, because that's not a fun topic. So you say about after the baby's born, people come after the baby's born to bring gifts and visit, whatever. Mm-hmm. So then, what about Santa? How does everybody feel about Santa, and where... Should we celebrate Santa as Catholics? Should we not? When should we celebrate giving gifts? And Louisa, you can go last.
I know. I love this question.
Does anybody have an opinion on that?
I think gift giving is a cool and neat and good aspect to Christmas. I definitely enjoy getting gifts.
Yeah, it's cool.
I know some other people may not agree with that, but I enjoy getting gifts. I think it incorporates a neat aspect of sacrifice.
I enjoy giving gifts. And that's it.
That's it?
So what's your thought on Santa then? Like, should Catholics do the Santa thing?
That's a good question. I don't have an opinion on it. I really don't.
Alright.
Do you want to give your...
Louisa's got an opinion.
Give your opinion, Louisa.
She wants to hear.
She's rocking back and forth waiting
know,
to
like,
say it.
This is one of my favorite questions to ask people. So I was very excited when Jason asked. The thing with Santa, I mentally separate Santa Claus, as secular Christmas depicts him as the fat man in the red robe with the white beard, and Saint Nicholas. Saint Nicholas is a real saint in the Catholic Church. He punched a heretic in the face. He's a very cool guy, and his feast day is earlier in December. Santa Claus, as secular Christmas knows him, is a fictional character that does not literally come down your chimney and literally bring you presents. That is not true. And so, just in the spirit of, like, not lying, I think that's a little weird, to just tell, like, your kids that or whatever. But then, you know, he is a fun character, and so I think it's perfectly acceptable to treat Santa similar to, like, Mickey Mouse or any of the Disney princesses or, you know, anything like that, where it's like, he's this character and you can like this character, but ultimately he is not real. And he is not literally bringing you presents. He is not literally doing these things. But certainly if you see, like, a Santa Claus dressed up in the mall, you can take a picture with him or whatever, because he's a fun character. As for the giving of gifts, I know a lot of Catholic circles will give them on the Feast of the Epiphany, which is, January 6th, 5th? Something like that. And that's the day that Jesus got his presents from the three kings, so that day is good enough for me and my future kids when they will get gifts. That's my thought. What's yours, Jason?
I honestly don't know. I've never thought of it as the way that Louisa has said. When she told me that for the first time, I was like, that is a very interesting perspective. I very much like the gift-giving aspect of it, but yet, in like the family aspect of being at Christmas time and whatever. But on Christmas Day, for our family, for example, we don't focus on Christmas or on Jesus Christ at all. We are more of the family aspect and the presents, and my brother or my immediate family, so my mom, dad, brother, and myself will go to Christmas Eve Mass, and then that's our Christmas aspect of it, and nothing furthermore. Anybody else have any Christmas talk?
I don't have anything on that topic, so Louisa, if you want to jump in 1 sec. I just want to be the fact check to what you said earlier.
There you go.
So according to the USCCB?
Yeah, United States Conference of Catholic Bishops.
Off their website, there's the liturgical calendar. And so that says that Advent in Christmas. It's a very long document. I wasn't going to scroll through the whole thing to find it. But Advent and Christmas start and then end December 2nd to January 13th this year.
Gotcha.
Well, 2018 to 2019.
Okay. And then obviously Christmas separates the Advent from the Christmas season.
Yes.
And so I just want to like emphasize that, you know, whether you're like listening to the music, because we didn't really touch on that, like if you're going to listen to Christmas music, it's one thing to listen to the song like O Come Emmanuel, right? Makes sense because you're like waiting for Jesus to come. It makes less sense for you to sing something like Joy to the World, right? Because like Jesus isn't there yet. Or, you know, Oh Holy Night, right? That didn't happen yet. And so when you're
Or
breaking
even
down...
less sense, all I want for Christmas are my 2 front teeth.
Yeah, that's also weird. Or like Grandma getting run over by a reindeer. That's a weird song. So, you know, when you're looking at your music, when you're looking at Santa, when you're looking at presents, right? If your focus at any point is not on Jesus Christ preparing for him coming, you're missing the point. And so I think it would be cool in later episodes to just talk about like what we're doing for our Advent, but also you as the listener, I think that you should write it down on a sticky note or a notebook paper or type it or text yourself or whatever and say what you're going to do this year to prepare yourself for Jesus at Christmas.
So with that being said, we're gonna take a stop at the final stop here and wrap her up for today. So Jack will want to wrap it up. Jack?
Do you want it or not?
No.
Oh, yeah. So I think Louisa, this is Ryan.
Yes, Ryan's got the final stop.
But I think Louisa wrapped it up nicely there. So making sure that you're doing something to prepare yourself and prepare your heart for Jesus' coming. And so I think one of the best things, or one of the things that you need to do that I heard from a homily this weekend was you should ask for the Holy Spirit to guide you in that way. And so ask for the Holy Spirit. Maybe, as we do in Lent, give something up, but do something to prepare yourself.
So, with that being said, make sure that you are preparing yourself this Advent season for the true meaning of Christmas and what Christmas is all about. And always remember to do good, avoid evil, and go to Mass.
Sayonara.